Our parish boards are the key to our success, and they're the boots on the ground.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Louisiana Farm Bureau podcast. I'm your host, Carl Wiggers, and it's a new year. Happy New Year to everyone listening, watching. We're excited that you're here, and we're excited to have a new year of content coming to you, and we're starting this year off with our president, Mr. Richard Fontenot. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me again, and Happy New Year's to you.
Always happy to have you in here and talk about what's going on your farm, but also here at Louisiana Farm Bureau. It's a new year, but let's start, Mr. Richard, with how last year ended. It was a busy, we pushed Farm Bill all year. Really, I feel like for a couple years we pushed Farm Bill, and we finished with kind of a win. But it's a big win. It's not. We didn't finish with the Farm Bill. That got extended again, but we finished with some disaster aid and some supplemental assistance that farmers needed, and that was huge, right?
Yeah, no, we definitely had a win this year, and we were able to share our message, share our stories, both in the homes, in our local areas, our operations, but more importantly, we shared the story of rural Louisiana and the impact and the struggles that agriculture was facing this year and in 2025 coming with the production costs and everything. And Congress heard us, and our congressional leadership did a fantastic job carrying the message all the way up to the CR vote at the last hours of this past Congress, and we were able to get a Farm Bill extension. It's not exactly what we were hoping for, but I think we'll have some opportunities to work on that this spring. But more importantly, we got a disaster component that picked up some shortfalls a lot of our producers were facing the last couple of years, as well as a supplemental to pick up some of those costs again that are holding our farmers back from production costs and production loans in the coming years. And so those dynamics have come into play. So at the end of the day, it was definitely a win for agriculture.
Yeah, I guess really that last half of the year we were pushing Farm Bill and supplemental assistance, and we were pushing both. They both mattered because the Farm Bill was so far extended and so far out of I guess line with what you guys need on the farm. That supplemental was necessary, and so I guess I don't want to say it was not a loss at all because we didn't get both things, but we definitely got the supplemental, and that was huge. But what was your, I guess, you went to D.C. last fall. You were following the news. We were going back and forth during all that continuing resolution drama, if you will. The farming aspect, that supplemental assistance was one of those last things that Congressman Johnson and a lot of the Louisiana delegation were fighting for, and kind of holding, like that was the line they were holding. Is that kind of the is that kind of the impression you got, from your vantage point?
Yeah, definitely. You had Washington D.C. politics at play with the CR as it relates to a lot of different dynamics. But agriculture was something that Speaker Johnson did a fabulous job. He and his staff really holding the line as it relates to what we need for our rural producers across the state, because this isn't commodity specific. I mean, all Louisiana agriculture is impacted over the last couple of years, and this is a financially critical component of our opportunities to put a crop in 2025, and they recognized that, and they held the line. They had several votes until finally we got passage on the last day, on the last hour.
It's a huge win, and that's something that you and I have talked offline about before, is the importance of us at Farm Bureau to talk about things that where we win, like where we bring dollars back to farmers and rural residents, and how important that is to kind of, I guess, share that and talk about that. I know you've done that. I know you've been busy over the holidays, probably with phone calls and answering questions about what that means and how that affects your bottom line, but also just what that means for Louisiana farmers. Are you telling that story out there?
Carl, I think we're telling it, but I think at the end of the day, I think we need to look back, as you said, as we reflect back. If we go back even to a year ago today, we were talking about a farm bill. We're talking about an equitable farm bill that was bankable, that had the economic numbers that our producers needed, that our financial institutions could use to have good paper to take to the bank. we battle that all year long. But at the same time, just to jog your memory, if you recall, we had a pretty significant crawfish disaster this past year in the spring where production was at 20% of normal production. So we were successful. Farm Bureau was one of the key players in giving the opportunity for Congress to take action and give a supplemental to that particular industry in the dire state it was in at the time. So Farm Bureau, we were there for the crawfish farmers in the spring. We worked on the Farm Bill all year. We're still working on the Farm Bill today. We had another extension, but we were successful on the House leadership side in the development of the Farm Bill in the fall to get something that has some equitable numbers to it that we could use. But unfortunately, we had some roadblocks on the Senate. We anticipate those with the majority changing on both on the three branches being all majority. We think that we can pass an equitable farm bill with some economic viability for our producers across this state this coming spring. And at the same time, we're successful in getting some disaster and supplemental in a CR package, as we mentioned earlier. All those things have been started a year ago, the conversations and the impacts. And supplemental and the disaster, that's relative to the inefficiency and the non-functionality of the farm bill that we had in place. So we trying to make it, we never make it whole, but we try to fill the gaps, stop gaps, if you will, so our producers can still have some viability for 2025 production.
You were just telling me about being at your local Evangeline Parish Farm Bureau meeting last night, where you're still the vice president on that parish board, and you actually were talking with your parish about that last night. What was kind of the sentiment, I guess, with your neighbors there in Evangeline Parish about this disaster relief and how important this is?
Well, first off, we are a grassroots organization, and at the end of the day, I mean, anything and everything starts and stops on the parish or county level if you're outside of Louisiana. But our parish boards are the key to our success, and they're the boots on the ground. I had the opportunity. I like many of us in ag leadership, we wear a lot of different hats, and I'm still on the board there, and honored to be there because that's where I started, and that's where I'm gonna end up at the end of the day. That's who's Farm Bureau. It's the local folks, and when you can share the success stories that we've mentioned earlier today with those folks, because they're the ones we call to get engaged in voter voice. We're the ones that call and say, look, not only do that, pick up the phone, call your senator, stop by their house, go see them at an event, invite them to your farm. All those dynamics, as we build those relationships, we do it at the local level. And the local level is what moves the needle in Baton Rouge and Washington, D.C. At the end of the day, we up here in Baton Rouge, we help coordinate and staff and educate and promote. But at the end of the day, if you want the needle moved, it takes the parish leadership, parish government to make that needle move to where it's tangible at the end of the day, because the buck comes back down to that local level.
Yeah, Louisiana Farm Bureau can say one thing, but if that farmer calls that congressman, that congresswoman, that senator and says, this matters to me and I'm voting for you or not voting for you, that carries a different weight. So that's awesome. Let's move forward. Let's look ahead. We're a couple weeks away from going to San Antonio for American Farm Bureau Convention. Your first as Louisiana Farm Bureau President, but not your first convention by any stretch. You've been there in many capacities, wearing many hats, as you mentioned. But what is it about American Farm Bureau Convention that you like? I know the answer to this, but I kind of want our listeners to. I think I know the answer to this, I should say. What is it that you like about that convention, that time together?
You know, anytime we can, as Farm Bureau leaders in different states, can meet collectively, and that's where we do our caucusing and do policy development. You know, every state has different niches and rules and regulations and issues that they battle. And what we do collectively, we try to put all those issues, all our policies together and have a national policy, which is our American Farm Bureau Policy Book that we take up to Washington, and that allows us to take positions on different issues. And it's very intriguing, and it's always educational on the different dynamics, whether it be a federal lands issue, whether it be a dairy compact issue, or whether it be an aquaculture issue in Louisiana. I mean, we have to share those stories to get support from from my different colleagues around the state to have that collective bargaining power as we move into Congress to get some things. And American Farm Bureau was a key player in us being successful in the crawfish industry this past year. There was a key component in getting all the different equitable economic impacts and the disaster aid that we got coming, as well as the Farm Bill we're working on. So it gives us the opportunity to get together, put our minds together, and have a common voice. So at the end of the day, we can move forward. And we are the voice of agriculture, whether we're in Louisiana or in Washington, D.C., or in Delaware or in New Mexico. We want to be the voice of agriculture all the way through and maintain. It gives us the opportunity to do that collectively.
Well, and you just said it, the collective, the unified voice is what makes it so strong when we go to D.C.
Right.
And it makes it a lot easier for that congressman, that senator that American Farm Bureau is going to be presenting a message to, saying, oh, this is all farmers. I mean, granted, there's always some nuance. There's always, potential for some disagreements there, but like generally, it's the voice of all agriculture, which is really powerful. For someone that maybe is not going to be sitting in the voting delegate session that is dealing with the policy stuff, but a member that maybe is on our women's leadership committee or a young farmer or a parish president, what is it at convention? Why is it important for them to go to American Farm Bureau Convention?
So outside of just the policy development, that's the end of the convention. Mm-hmm. But on the front side of that, we have almost too many things to mention. And I don't know how they put it all together. Mm-hmm. I had the opportunity to sit on the YFNR, American Farm Bureau committee years ago, and we concentrated on just the young farmer and rancher stuff. And even that is 3 days of jam-packed contest events and different leadership opportunities, as well as folks outside of that. I mean, there's a trade show. We have a grand stage where they come in and different folks from USDA and different speakers. There's even some of the internet podcasters that are going to be doing shows there, or FD TV's there doing interviews, doing trade show activities. Everyone that's in agriculture, for the most part, is there participating at different levels and engaged with rural America, because at the end of the day, whenever we say something with American Farm Bureau, we're saying, as you mentioned, we're the voice of agriculture. And if we don't include any and all, we're leaving folks out. But even if you're not a delegate, even if just a member and you're in the area and you have the opportunity, you go to it because you're going to learn something.
Mm-hmm. There's some great sessions.
Great sessions on different topics, different expertise available to you. You're going to take something away no matter what you're looking for at the end of the day.
Yeah. All right, let's come back home. It's a new year. It's January. You're not only the president of Louisiana Farm Bureau, you're also a farmer. Are you excited about the year? Do you have a positive outlook? I know you got probably crawfish. You pulling traps yet? What are you looking forward to in 2025?
As 2025 comes in, I'm going to have a lot of changes in our production system, because I've never put a crop in and was president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau. I'm going to rely on a lot of family and friends, and my brother in particular, to try to get all this done. But we look forward to it. The prices on the commodities are a little softer than they were in the past, so it's a struggle on what's the crop mix we're going to go with. And we shopping hard on input costs, because even that, all those dynamics come into your profit and loss statement at the end of the year. But we do see some optimism out there. Last year we had a disaster in crawfish. We've seen a little more signs of some activity now. So it's a little more motivating to say we got stuff coming in. Hopefully in the next 2 months, where we'll start bringing a crop in and be putting a rice crop in the next 3 months, and the ball keeps turning. A lot of great things to happen in agriculture. I hope we can get a farm bill that makes us solid, because I'm fearful that the economics and the dynamics associated with things, and we got a new administration. I don't know what these trade situations are going to look like, how they're going to impact. Historically, they've impacted some commodity prices, and so those dynamics are some of the concerns down the road. But at the end of the day, Louisiana producers, or any ag producers, is the most optimistic person in the world to put a crop in good faith and turn it to the good Lord and let him grow it, and hopefully you reap a benefit at the end of the year. That's who we are.
I can't add anything to that, but that's a great. That is one of the. I think that's one of the greatest things about this job that from me is getting to be around that optimism. You know, you see somebody that took it on the chin last year and delivered 30 loads of salvaged soybeans, but they're ready to smile and do it again next year and believe for a better crop. And I think that's a good thing to be around. So thank you for that. And I'm glad you're feeling optimistic, and I wish you the best of luck as you juggle all the hats that you wear as you move into the spring. And I'm looking forward to some crawfish too. Maybe I have to come over for some Mardi Gras maybe, or
Yeah,
we'll
Mr.
see.
Ronda's got some plans up.
We'll see. But thank you so much, Mr. Richard. I know you got plenty to get to this week. You got a lot going on between now and getting your rice crop planted. So thank you for being here. Thanks for listening to this podcast. If you want to learn more about this disaster package and supplemental assistance, we'll have articles linked in the show notes. And thanks for listening. Subscribe to this podcast, like this video wherever you see it on YouTube or Facebook or wherever else you might be seeing this. We appreciate you listening. We'll hope to see you again right here next time on the Louisiana Farm Bureau podcast.